Okay, this is a video that shows how I install Gentoo Linux. And to do that, I'm going to get a terminal open. Now I'm going to use SSH, which stands for Secure Shell, and it allows you to connect to another computer. You can go from one computer to the other. And it's a lot simpler to do it that way. I could download the minimal install CD, but that doesn't have any kind of graphics environment with it, and it's just easier to do it this way. I'm going to do a copy and paste, because if I sit here and type everything out, it's going to take 3 or 4 hours, and while I've got the patience to do that, it's going to take about 8 hours to make the video and type everything out. Plus I can't type, so that's why I'm doing it this way. I have already plugged in a USB drive to the other computer, booted it up. I gave it a root password and also created a user. And the only reason I did that was because sometimes SSH will let you log in to the USB drive and sometimes as root, and sometimes it won't. It just depends on what version of Linux you're using. You can install Gentoo with just about any version of Linux you want. I've even installed it on the same computer, booted into one operating system and created partitions and installed it without having to reboot the computer or anything. Anyway, okay. Now that's strange. Oh, okay. Great. Just great. I did this video yesterday and it didn't want to act right. Okay, let's try again. I hope I don't have to reboot the computer. Okay, we're in. And then I know the root password, so all I have to do is SU. Now I'm root. Change directory to the root directory, and we're ready to go. Now the first thing I'm going to do is use fdisk to format the hard drive that's on there. And okay. Alright, basically I did this yesterday, and there were some problems and I had the microphone too close, so I just thought, you know what, just redo the whole thing today. Alright, I'm going to delete both of these. I'm basically going to put them back, but I'm going to go through the steps to do it. D is delete. It'll always pick the lowest partition, and if I do a P, you can see that the swap partition's gone and the Linux partition is still there. Do D again. Okay, now there shouldn't be anything. Now I'm not going to make a new partition table because I know this one's good because I did it yesterday. So what I'm going to do is just make new partitions, and the letter for that is N. P for primary partition. I don't really like, I'm using a MS-DOS partition table which allows for 4 partitions, but I'm only going to use 2 because it's going to be the only operating system on the computer. So enter first, enter again, and then 45 and a capital G, and you can see where it says plus size. I can't do sectors. I probably could if I had a calculator, but you go right there. K is for kilobytes, M is for megabytes, G is for gigabytes, T is for terabytes, and I have no idea what P is for, and I'm not sure I want to know. Okay, now I'm going to make another partition for the swap partition. The computer's got 60 gigabytes of memory and it's a dual core processor, but I'm going to make a swap partition anyway because it's Gentoo and you never know. It's better to be safe than sorry. I'm going to do P again. The second, it's going to default as second partition. And then I'm going to do plus, I'm going to give it 6 gigabytes. Now, if I do a P on here for print, P is print. If you have trouble with fdisk, it's pretty simple. Fdisk in Linux works just about the same as fdisk in like DOS or Windows. You can type the M key because it's self-explanatory, and it'll give you what all the letters mean and what they do, and it's pretty easy to work with. I'm going to do P again so I know what I'm looking at. Now I'm going to change the second partition to a swap partition, and that is T for the type, default 2, so it kind of already knows which one I'm going to be changing. And it says L to list all types, but I know what it is. 82. If I get a P again, there we go. Now we've got a swap partition of 6 gigabytes and a main Linux partition of 45 gigabytes. And just to show you, L, it says uppercase L, but you could use a lowercase l just the same. And there it gives you all that. You just type in the number, and if you look at 82, Linux swap. I've been doing this a lot, and I can go through fdisk pretty quickly. I'm just going through it slowly to give anyone that doesn't know how to do things. Okay, P, make sure everything's set, and then I hit W for to write it out. Now, when you do this, if you go to make any kind of file system on here, it'll give you a warning. It's using the old table, because to use the new table you would have to reboot it, and I really don't want to go through all that mess again, because the root password would be wiped out and the user would be wiped out, and I'd have to reset all that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put a extended 3 partition on the first partition, or I'm going to put a extended 3 file system on the first partition, and a swap space on the second partition. And that's the command. You can do quite a lot with mkfs. You can even do DOS and NTFS partition or file systems as well. So it's a handy way to, and if you do an NTFS file system on a partition with Linux, Windows will read it and we'll see it as an NTFS. I'm assuming it would do the same thing for a DOS, like a FAT32 or a FAT16 or whatever. And then tell it where I want to put it. And you'll see it saying that it already contains an extended 3 file system. I want it to proceed anyway, and it'll go through and do it. Take a few seconds. and it's done. Now I'm going to do a swap partition or swap file system. This is basically the way the Gentoo handbook does it, and I'm just sticking with it because it's worked in the past. And right now, to make swap, MK swap on dev SDA2, and there's two ampersand symbols, and what that basically does is the first ampersand does the command and then returns control back to the terminal, and the second ampersand is the two together. They confirm the first command and return control back to the terminal for the second command, which is swap on. Linux really shows you how a lot of things go together. Now, I'm not crazy about UUIDs. I know what they are, I know what they do, I know what they're for, but I've been using computers for a very long time, and I've been using Linux for about 20 years now. So, you know, unless I go senile sometime soon, I really don't need them currently, but I understand their purpose. I'm just not, you know, I just don't like them too much. Okay, so we've got all that done. Now what we have to do is, and I'm going to go ahead and do this real quick. I should have done it at the beginning, but I didn't. Let's see. You can go to Gentoo Linux website, which is www.gentoo.org, and if you go to downloads, you can get a minimal install CD. If you haven't got any kind of a problem with using the terminal or text mode or whatever you want to call it, then you could do the minimal install CD. There is I can't remember what kind of there's a text browser on there on the CD. I don't know if it's eLinks or Links, but I'm thinking it's eLinks, and you can go to the Gentoo website